So we can,
Okay, I'm rolling.
all right. So Jill, just like we said to Dawn, please spell and say your name on camera for us, and then tell us your um, title.
Okay. My name is Jill Ide, Jillide, and I'm the Community Connections Director for Northwest Autism Center.
What is the Community Connections Director of Northwest Autism Center? What do you do?
I do a lot of things, but mostly I get to walk with families on their journey through autism, from them suspecting that they have autism, through screening, through getting a diagnosis, evaluation, figuring out resources and treatment, all the way through the lifespan.
And what all does that entail? What all do you have to do when you take that journey from beginning to end? Who do you talk with? How do you get resources?
Right, so each family is different, so it's really tailored to what the family is asking me about and looking for, and then me filling in the gaps for them for what they don't know. So it could include, what doctor do I go to? It could include, hey, I'm to school age now, what do I do now? And it could be an adult asking me, hey, I've suspected for years that I have autism, can you help me? So it's really figuring out where they are and then helping them on that journey.
So you do screenings for both children and adults. So tell us a little bit about this and what you're seeing in your center.
Right. So someone could call me and say, hey, I have a little guy and I'm thinking that they have autism or something is going on. Or I may get a call from an adult, like I said earlier, that has suspected their whole life that they have autism. And so it's really trying to get them hooked up with a doctor that can diagnose, or a clinical psychologist. We have a list that I give them, somebody that works with their insurance, and then just helping them step by step, depending on if they have a language barrier. We deal with a lot of people that may need a translator, or people that don't really understand the language around what autism is. And so there's a lot of education and learning going into those conversations with families.
Tell us a little bit, we got to be there for some of the training and some of the ABA work that was going on. Tell us a little bit about what takes place in the center there.
So we have an early intensive ABA program where we serve children from 2 years old to 5. They have to start before their 6th birthday. And it's a really special treatment. It's called ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, and they come to our center 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, for about 48 clinic days, which comes out to be about 12 weeks long.
And what kind of results do you see oftentimes with the early intervention? Is early intervention important? And what?
Oh yeah,
Why?
completely. Well, for one, my child has autism, and my child did not get ABA treatment. And so I'm really passionate about this treatment because I see kiddos come in that are doing some really interesting things, from maybe not wearing their clothes, not their shirts really bother them, they're not eating certain foods, they're maybe eloping. And so there's a lot of challenging behaviors that come through our doors. And at the end of our 12 weeks with them, I see kiddos that can walk out wearing those clothes that really were bothering them. They're not quite getting away as fast. They're really learning to walk beside their parents. You just see amazing things at the end of those 12 weeks.
How is it dealing with the parents? Does it give them hope? Does it, are they, I know that you said you teach the parents to work with the child and to adapt their lives so communication can happen and a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that. You work with the child, but you also work with the parent.
Yes, in fact, I think maybe the working with the parents is the most important piece, because they need to understand about this diagnosis. They need to understand what this treatment is about, how it affects their family, how it can change their life if they continue to use these things that our wonderful therapists teach them. So it really, I think it's a lot about walking with the parents and where they are. And sometimes we're dealing with cultures that are not necessarily positive around the word autism spectrum disorder. Sometimes this is a real shameful diagnosis. And so you have to work with that as well and see where they are.
You see the whole gamut of the spectrum. What have you seen? what would be, you know, an autism type thing that would be happening with children that maybe are a lot more functioning, and then maybe kids that aren't.
Mhm.
We call it a spectrum, but what is
Right.
a spectrum? It can go from what to what?
Yeah, so you may see a child that is nonverbal, that may be lashing out a little bit, that may be eloping, to someone who has really great language but may not know the rules around social engagement, how to make a friend. So you see everything from nonverbal to really high functioning, and somebody that maybe you don't even recognize as having autism because they're doing really well. They're having a good conversation with you. So it really is a spectrum disorder.
Tell us what eloping is.
Eloping just means that they don't know a lot about safety, and they don't understand those rules that some are, most children. I have a typically developing daughter. You can say, please don't go because you're going to get run over by a car. Well, my son with autism, I could say the same thing, and he's like, so? So escaping from a parent's control or verbal commands to some areas that may not be safe for them.
So tell us a little bit about your history with autism.
I have a 23-year-old son with autism, and it's why I do what I do. Because when my son was, he was diagnosed developmentally delayed early on, but I knew that there was something else going on. And he did not get a diagnosis at 18 months when he could have. He wasn't diagnosed until he was 5 years old. And that was a lot of pushing personally because I knew something was happening with him. And I think that is why we want kids to be diagnosed early, so they can get that early intervention. And I'm personally passionate about it because my child did not have the opportunity to have ABA.
What did you notice when he was younger? What caused you to think that something was going on?
With him, he was pretty floppy early on. He had hypotonia, which is a low muscle tone, and he wasn't making good eye contact. He was not pointing at things and having me bring him, like juice or crackers. Like I have a daughter that's a little bit older, 16 months older than my son, and so I could compare his behavior to hers, and there was something that wasn't adding up.
Hold on a second.
So when parents come in, you can empathize definitely
Yes.
with them. What do you want parents to know whenever they arrive at Northwest Autism with either questions or needing assessment or their child has been diagnosed?
First of all, I want them to know that they're safe with us, that they can trust us, and that we have the information to lead them where they need to go. So I want them to feel completely comfortable and not judged, and that we will listen and we will help them. That's the main thing.
What's some of the rewarding things that you've gotten out of your job with Northwest Autism?
So many things. I mean, for one, it's such an honor to be a part of someone's story that is on this journey. And so I get so many hugs and so many thank yous and so many little people even in my office wanting to share their toys with me. I mean, it's endless. Every day is just an honor to be going to work and to helping these families.
Where do you see, Dawn is, I'm gonna say, she's like a bulldog. But you have a leader at Northwest Autism Center who
Yes.
really is a superior advocate for change in
Yes.
this spectrum. Tell us a little bit about this. What's it like working at Northwest Autism? What's happening as a result of what you guys are doing? What is Dawn doing that is just so remarkable?
Oh, that is an endless list. My executive director, Dawn Seidel, is an amazing woman who I used to follow her around town when I first moved here in 2004 and went to some of her talks because I could see the passion, I can see the advocacy in her, and I wanted to be part of that. And so I volunteered for her organization until she hired me. So I believe in this woman 1,000%. When she's at the table, good things are happening. People are noticing. She is a force to be reckoned with. So I'm totally excited to be at Northwest Autism under her leadership.
how has Northwest Autism contributed to some of the changes in the community?
Well, for one, I think having this early intensive ABA treatment clinic is an option that we didn't have here. And Dana and Dawn were both responsible for helping those conversations along at the legislative level. They've been involved in so many meetings, and they're both just powerhouses when it comes to making things happen. And so our community didn't really have this until, they, I don't know how
That's
to
okay,
say
you
that.
can start over.
Yeah.
The community didn't have these types of resources before or when
Right.
centralized.
I mean, ABA is sort of an early thing in our state, really. I mean, 4 years ago was when our clinic started, 4.5 years ago. And so before that, with this option of having a 12-week early intervention ABA program for Spokane was just non-existent. You could have in-home services, but this was something new, and they were both, made this happen, so.
So tell us about what Dana does.
What doesn't Dana Stevens do? This is a person that wears multiple hats at our organization. She not only is a support to our staff and our BCBAs, which are board certified behavior analysts who run the clinics, she is she does outreach. She goes into school systems. She works with the police. There's nothing that this woman doesn't do. So.
We're going to show, why I ask you that is we're going to show her in classes and all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
what is her focus? What is her, we know kind of yours is to get families the resources, direct them, all that type
Right.
of stuff. What is Dana's job kind
Think
of?
about the
What
puzzle
is-
pieces,
yeah.
like
How
a
they all
topic of
connect
an
together.
individual community, we do systems, because it is crazy.
That's a better Dawn question than my question.
Okay, and we'll ask you too, so what is your role? Okay, okay. So we talked with Dawn a little bit about what her focus is as far as what her hopes and dreams are and what needs to be changed. In your words, what needs to happen with autism? Where do we need to go? What needs to change? What are we doing? What is improving? What isn't improving?
Well, every part of the journey, there's something that needs to be changed. And so when my child was younger, I thought it was around diagnosis. And when my child was in school, I thought, it's all around having a better IEP and having better relationships with teachers and teaching families how to navigate that process. And then when he was in high school, I thought, oh, it's going to be more about him having a job and employment. So every time that something changes in my own son's life, I think that's the next thing that needs to improve, that needs to be better. So for me, it's all of it. All of it needs to be better. We need to be less judgmental with families with autism. They need to be able to go to dinner and not be seen as a behavior problem. We need to have more acceptance amongst our friends and families that don't really understand what we're dealing with. So there's so many things that need to change.
When the public looks at these videos and stuff like that, what do you hope they get out of it?
I just hope that they take one little piece that resonates with them and help make it better for other families.
See somebody out in public, many people jump to conclusions right away.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you like people to know about those things?
I would like them to know how hard autism is. This is not an easy diagnosis. Figuring it out is difficult, and families live with isolation. They live with judgment. They don't have a lot of supports a lot of times, and they need to be given a lot of empathy and a lot of caring and a lot of support, whether it just be keeping your mouth shut or really helping them, stepping up and saying, hey, can I help you? You look like you're in trouble. That's what I'd like.
Is there one particular story that stands out for you where you're really proud that you were able to work with a family? I know there's a lot, but is there something that was pretty significant?
We just got a thank you the other day from a lady who I talked to probably 3 years ago, who didn't believe in ABA, who was having a lot of challenges with her child. And she went through our clinic after many years of just discussion and coming by and, just watching. And she has given us the most glowing recommendation. She's so positive now. She really gets it. And to see her be able to hold her hand, her son's hand, and go out to the car, something that she never thought would happen. As a single mom, I think it's one of my new favorite stories.
Tell us, what are people fearful about ABA? What are you hearing? What are people telling people that makes them fearful?
Well, Google is pretty easily accessible, where you can find out lots of information about topics that may not be accurate. And ABA has a lot of misconceptions and a lot of fallacies around it. And so we have to dispel those. So we give a lot of information about what those myths are and then what the truth is.
What are you hearing? What are some of the misnomers?
Oh, that's very adversive, that it's not positive, that we hold the children, just anything that you can imagine around children and something being really negative, it's out there.
And what do you want them to know about your program and the ABA people
Oh.
out there?
I want them to know what incredible staff we have. They are amazing people. They truly care about children, and they also have the skills and the education to change lives. And I just want them to know that they are safe with Northwest Autism Center, and we will do everything we can to make their family function better and to be able to have a more typical experience, if you will, by being able to go out to dinner, by able to go to the dentist, by getting their hair cut. All the things that you take for granted when you have a typically developing child. And I was one of those people. And then when you have a child with autism, you get it. It's like, this is not easy.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, I was telling my son who has autism, and he always kind of is a big supporter of mine. And I said, Spence, I'm going to do this interview, and I'm really nervous. I go, what, do you have any words of advice for me? And he goes, just remember, Mom, it's always about love. It always comes back to love. And he's right. That is what it's about.
Great ending.
Trying to think, like, phenomenal.
Mhm.
Yeah.